So we heard earlier about the value of premium content, premium media brands, and the importance of holding on to that premium feel, but also about how expressing that great content across multiple platforms is really the job of the modern editorial team. And someone who can tell us quite a bit more about how to develop that cross-platform roadmap for your content is the Executive Director of Digital Editorial Strategy at Hearst. Please welcome Betsy Fast.
Hello, all. I have to first excuse my voice. I'm going to grab some water. I do not smoke 4 packs a day. I am American. I have not been with Hearst UK that long. I've been with Hearst US for a long time. And when my boss, after the election, asked me if I would consider moving to London, I pushed her over and I booked the first one-way ticket I could find. So we're going to talk about today sort of the roadmap for how we produce content today. And it obviously looks very different than it used to look. This is Helen Gurley Brown. She is the famous editor of Cosmo US for almost 4 decades, from the 1967 to the late 90s. Very retro photo, obviously. This is old times magazine editing, and I would argue that that old-time digital editing looked a lot like this in the 2000s, even 2010. What an editor would have to do is take one photo, manually cut it 7 times. They would be bleeding. It would take hours to put up a photo gallery. It was really not what it looks like today. A few years ago, content management systems got a little bit better. Editors would choose a photo. They would write a story. It would go live. End of story. And today, a digital editor is really operating more like this gif of SpongeBob SquarePants, where he is making a video, he's writing a post, he's doing an Instagram story at a live event. It's much more of a multitasking environment. So that's our current digital editors. Let me tell you a little bit about the way we structure edit at Hearst UK, in that we have one large digital edit team that sits together. There are editors who are working on specific brands. They are dedicated to those brands. But we also have a centralized news desk who's writing news for across all of our sites. And we have luxury brands like Esquire, ELLE, and Harper's Bazaar, but we also have lifestyle brands like Good Housekeeping. We have a medical brand, Net Doctor. So they're really devoted to working across brand. We also have a centralized video team who's producing shareable, bite-sized video across all of our websites. We've got that one digital edit team. We also have one CMS, which is key, which is our proprietary CMS called MediaOS, that really enables us to share and generate content much more quickly. Gone are the days of cutting one photo 7 times, thank heavens. And we also have one goal. It's really, really simple for us. It's all about the reader. It's readers first. What does our user want? Our editors know intimately who their reader is, and they think always, first and foremost, yes, we care about search. Yes, we care about social traffic. But what we're thinking before we publish any piece of content is, what does the reader want, and where does he or she want to read this bit of content? Is this content even a post at all? Is it just pure video? Is it just an Instagram? Is it just one fleeting moment that we know our audience will engage with? So that's how we operate. And just to give you a sense of Hearst UK's scope, we average over 100 million video views on social. We've got 7 million unique users on ComScore, 23 million social followers, and 1 million subscribers to our Cosmo UK Snapchat Discover channel. So our reach is pretty remarkable, and I think one of the things I'm most proudest of is that we've been able to take best practices and really apply them to this digital team here in the UK, and we've seen some pretty impressive growth. These are just some of our biggest brands. You know, we've got Harper's Bazaar, who's up almost 300% year over year. So it's really all of what we're doing here in growing our sites is because we're really hitting the nail on the head with what our readers want, and that I can't stress. You know, our last speaker spoke about. It's really all about the reader. It's being authentic and knowing what he or she wants. So a few strategies that we use to bring our edit to life is, one of them is just plain old smart repackaging. So this is a listicle that went live on Cosmo that is just 10 surprising facts that will forever change your view on flying. And it did okay, got 8,700 uniques, which is good, but not that impressive for what we were looking for, especially because the content, like there were great juicy bits that you would want to share with your friends. And indeed, I shared with some of mine because, like, ew, stop drinking coffee on planes. I'm about to tell you that. So here's the one thing you should never drink on a plane. I'm ruining it for you, tea and coffee, because the water never gets changed. And you know, pulling out a little bit like that from a listicle that didn't resonate as much as you thought it would really worked. You know, we increased over, you know, just exponentially. So that was one little bit that came out. And the next was flight attendants cringe hard when passengers do this one thing. This one I'm going to have to make you click on Cosmo to find out. I'm not going to ruin it for you. But it hit almost 100,000 uniques. So it's just one little strategy when you know that you're writing a piece of content with tons of juicy bits and it falls flat. It's this one way that we just try old things newly. Excuse me. This is a fun example, I think, and speaks to how our editors are always thinking about how they can try things newly and find out, you know, if there's new juice in old content. So this was a post that did okay on Cosmo, not great, 5,000 uniques. The scientific reason why you can't stand coriander. There is a scientific reason. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's biological. And it, you know, did okay. But me when I taste coriander, this is supposed to play, it is Amy Poehler gagging, did much, much better, and it actually brought back to the website 10,000 uniques that time. So it's just one way to, you know, if something doesn't work one time, that's fine, there's some learning there, but there's always a chance that you could really resonate newly with a new audience. Another strategy that we use, we call content swarming. This is an image of a pregnant woman who staged a bee maternity shoot. And much like the bees to this poor unborn baby, we like to swarm content that we know resonates with our audience. One of those topics that happened recently is a show called Love Island. Any Love Island fans in the audience? Not that kind of crowd, okay. Love Island is, it's ostensibly a dating show where you go to a fantastic island with a villa and you couple up with people and you, at the end you choose love or money. And one of the brilliant things about this show is, go producers, it's on every night. So there's always something to talk about. So Cosmopolitan swarmed Love Island. We are going to look into the gory details of how they did it. And over a course of 8 weeks, reached 1.7 million people, 4.8 million page views, and 6.5 million video views on video content. So we're going to take a look, and you're going to learn something new about pop culture. Excuse me. So this is just a little typical article on Cosmo that did really nicely. 15,000 uniques is great. But we also made it into a video, which linked back to our website and got 65,000 uniques. And then we actually put it on Snapchat. And video doesn't typically do well on Snapchat because news gets old really fast. But we saw a really long average dwell time on Snapchat, which is amazing. And it got 6,000 shares. one thing we decided to do, seeing that a video performed better than we thought, is how could we make that resonate newly? And what we did is we used, at the time, what was a new opinion poll functionality, asking our users, our millennial Cosmo users, what they thought about particular Love Island things. And it brought in 1 million uniques, which is remarkable for video content on Snapchat. And 1 million people voted, which was pretty impressive. Then we looked onto how could we make this content work even further? So one thing that we did is that we signed up a cast favorite to be a Dr. Love, a love advice giver. And we brought him into the audience, had him come in for an Instagram story. And we found that Instagram stories is actually a really legitimate way to drive traffic back to the website these days, which is a wonderful thing. We're always, it's really all about what platform can we create content for, and how do our users like to engage with content on a particular platform. And we're really seeing success with Instagram stories. So this is just an example of sharing news on Instagram stories. The swipe up looks like this. And we also had the narrator, who is a Scottish comedian, come in and do a Facebook Live and just talk about gossip for the show. So you're seeing Facebook Lives, you're seeing Insta Stories, you're seeing Snapchat, video, polls. It's just another way of reaching our audience on whatever platform they're on. And that's really the most important thing, is considering before you even approach the computer to press the buttons, is where is my reader going to want to engage with this piece of content, and how do I want to reach them, and being really thoughtful about that. A stat here that I think is interesting if you are looking at different ways of driving traffic to your site is that Insta Stories is a legitimate source, and they're up almost 1,000% year over year, which makes sense because Insta Stories was barely a thing then, but I would recommend it. One little more slide, just in case you haven't had your fill of Love Island. I'm sure it'll be back next year, so you can watch then. Is sometimes we didn't even write a post on a Love Island concept. We just made it into a video because that's how we thought our readers would like it and would engage with it. And this is just one example of a 1 million view video that we then decided to do another way, link back to the site. And there was so much information in this one video that they decided to do a story on it. Anyway, that's enough Love Island. Just kidding. Not enough Love Island. It's never enough. This is the face of the Esquire digital editor when I asked him how he was going to cover Love Island. Yeah. And the thought was, and his comment to me was, Betsy, it's so lowbrow, the guys don't watch it. And I really challenged him to look at it. I would never make one of my editors post something that they don't feel comfortable with, because obviously we're all about the reader and we're all about the brand, and we're not a clickbait factory. It's not what we do. But I do think that when there's a really large pop culture phenomenon happening, there are plenty of boyfriends and friends of friends who are watching these shows, and the real challenge and the brilliance of an editor comes out when they are forced to think of things in a new way. And he came up with this, which I think is fabulous. He was watching it, as he was made to do, I suppose, by me. And he was agog at the jeggings on men. And they wrote this rant, it's time to end the style atrocity of the skinny jean. And it absolutely crushed it for them. 36,000 uniques, 3,000 shares. And I just think it's a great example of really pushing your teams to think beyond what they think their brand is, because this is so Esquire, this is so on brand. But it's a little out of the box thinking, and I think that that's really important in these internet times. Here's another example, another Esquire example of creating a video out of a story, and we do this a lot. This was the Leonardo DiCaprio guide to not giving an F. And we turned it in this video that I will actually I think we have time to watch it, which I think is pretty fun. This is your Friday night out as told by Leo. Let's see if the video does not play. But I will, if anyone wants to watch it, email me, I will send it out. Basically, the question that you have to ask yourself, when I was watching this, I was asking myself, when are they gonna get to the Revenant scene? Because that's clearly, is it gonna be 3 a.m., is it gonna be 4 a.m.? But this video hit over, was viewed over 2 million times, shared over 4,000 times. And it's just another example of thinking about our content, thinking about those celebrities or those touch points, those pillars that really resonate with an audience, and seeing how you can manipulate your content and use it newly, whether it's a GIF again or a video or something like that. We are almost out of time. I want to leave you with something that I've learned in the UK in these few months since I've been here, which is that the ladies love their gin, and that's something that we've really doubled down on Good Housekeeping. And I think that the videos aren't playing for whatever reason, but this is a gin loaf cake, which was viewed almost 3 million times, which GH is a growing brand for us. So this kind of viewership was really impressive. So we decided to investigate this gin thing a little further. We made a gin and tonic cheesecake, which was viewed almost over 5 million times, almost 3 million alone on GH, and shared 35,000 times. So this is, again, another example of content swarming and really pushing, again, the editors to figure out new ways to, I mean, all of these recipes are triple tested. New ways, I guess, to get gin in more things. Gin and tonic ice lollies, gin and tonic slushies, and run, don't walk to buy your gin bottle advent calendars. Lastly, I don't want you to think that it's only about growing audience. We are also about the integrity of pillars that are important to us as brands. And the election, the Snap election in June, is an example of something that we covered not because we thought it was going to drive traffic. In fact, we thought the opposite. But we knew it was important to young women in the UK. And so we went big on it. 2 more slides, I'm out of time. We went big, because if you don't go big, you go home. And we created explainers from each of the parties in tweets. So they did not tweet them, but we did interview them, and we put them up in easy-to-digest tweets, talking about the issues, the 9 issues that we thought affected young women in the UK the most. We partnered with She Votes for really digestible quote cards to remind women what was at stake in the election. We created an entire Snapchat Discover edition the day before, covering the election only. And I think the best thing about this to me is that, I will leave you on this, is that while it wasn't a traffic play, the engagement that we saw on the Snapchat edition was really, really amazing. Like over 6.5 million views, 25,000 shares. And as I like to say, I don't know, I do know that this was the election where more young people than ever came out to vote, and as I like to say, was it coincidence or was it Cosmo? That's all I've got. Thanks so much.
Betsy, thank you. Will you take a question if there is one?
Yeah, of course, sure.
So, and we have one there right away. So, I think it's just in front of you, if you don't mind reaching forward.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Lavina Tandon. I work for India Today.
Hi.
Very interesting to see how to make your content go further on different platforms. Do you have any reverse data to say that all that on content has come back and turned into subscription or created revenue for you? So coming backwards. Right. Have you worked it backwards as well?
Right.
Thank you.
We are one company. We operate slightly, pretty separately. We have a digital edit floor, we have a print edit floor, and we have, a subscription and consumer marketing and that. So we consumer marketing certainly tracks how many subscribers they get from our websites, but we're not tracking, whether, a Love Island piece of content is generating more subscriptions to Cosmo. And one thing that I would say is, obviously, that's always something that a publisher would be interested in, but I also think you have to really own and nurture the relationship you have with your digital reader. While you should make it easy for them to subscribe to your magazine, you also want to manage that you're not blasting them with content that they're not necessarily looking for. And so we try to create a happy medium between being able to sign up for a newsletter or subscribe to a magazine without making it the first reason why you would come to the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. Can I ask you, please, to thank Betsy? Thank you. Okay, it's lunchtime, everyone. After lunch, which finishes at 13:45 and not a moment later, here for artificial intelligence, monetizing video and measuring impact across platforms around the corner in Specialist and Insight Theatre. So back here for AI at 13:45.